I want to introduce a special guest to give you all a little bit of an overview of how some of these technologies might be impacting healthcare and how we're thinking about the health space. And for that, I would like to introduce one of the newest faculty members with SingularityU Canada. You may already know him. If you don't, you should. This is Sonny Kohli. He's a graduate of the International Space University. He's been trained as a flight surgeon with the Canadian Forces. He's a co-founder of Cloud DX and the winner of the Bold Epic Innovator Award for the this is a hard one, Qualcomm Tricorder X Prize, which he'll probably tell you a little bit about. Before all of those crazy things, Space University, X Prize, all of that, Sonny is a physician. He's a doctor. And I think Sonny is an excellent example of an exponential leader, someone who exercises those capacities and brings them together of the futurist, the technologist, the innovator, and the humanitarian. And I'm very happy to have him here this morning to kind of introduce the themes that we're going to be exploring. So if I could get him up on stage, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sonny Kohli.
Thanks, Jeff. Cheers. So, where to start? This is a lofty topic, but I'm just going to start with sort of putting it into context. Over the last few days, we have appropriately spent a great deal of time talking about exponential technologies, neural networks and AI, 3D printing and digital manufacturing, blockchain, robotics. And in fact, that little mind map, that the exercise that Jeff went through when we talked about reduced fatalities on the road and the paucity of organs that it's going to create, well, 3D printing could solve that problem. There are people out there right now creating 3D printed organs that we anticipate by 2030 will solve the organ shortage. I mean, think about that. So we create one problem with exponential technology, but then we solve it with an exponential technology. It's quite fascinating to me. And that's what makes it truly exciting to me. I'm not a technologist. I can't speak to the level of some of our experts on technology, but I am somebody out in the field, out in the world, who can be enabled by these technologies to truly solve some of the biggest problems that we're facing. I can be enabled and make them, they truly become democratized. They have impacts that are far-reaching beyond our industries, powerful solutions. And that's what makes them exciting to me. So today, I want to shift gears, though. I want to focus not so much on the exponential technologies, because we've done a good job of that over the last few days. I want to focus on the problem. In fact, a problem, you could define it as a grand challenge. It's one that affects all of us. And it's one that I would contend could be solved by some of these converging tools. So, I think we've changed the slides. Could we change the slide? Do I have a slide changer? Let's see. I don't have a slide changer. That's okay. The number of times I've walked into a room without my stethoscope, so this is just a daily occurrence for me.
Just testing you.
So, this is an image from Port-au-Prince, Haiti, just after the earthquake in 2010. 250,000 people died instantly, 1 million more made immediately homeless. I'm here volunteering at the time, and this is a picture taken from a Nordic colleague, Christian. That's their Bloor Street. That's previously a very vibrant street full of cafes and restaurants and shops. It's just an apocalypse. And while I was volunteering, I realized that many more will die and continue to die because of the lack of a fundamental human right. And that's access to essential healthcare services. But I guess you could argue, some would argue, is this really a human right? And so I'd like to poll you. This is not a rhetorical question. How many of you think that basic medical care should be a fundamental human right? So, not surprisingly, this is a group of Canadians. I'm preaching to the choir, and I agree. And I'm not just saying that because I'm advocating for the 1 billion people on Earth that don't have it. I mean, I see it as a Canadian, and I'm concerned about the viability of our own healthcare system. You know, when I'm in a walk-in clinic with my daughter waiting for hours, or when I'm a patient waiting for months for my MRI, and I can't see my spine surgeon as a result, or maybe as a physician, and I see these exponential technologies, and I want to use them on my patients, but I can't, because the system is broke. And it's under threat. It's under threat because the government is drowning in the money we need to sustain it. It's also under threat. This is a slide from the Canadian Medical Association, and some of you are from the CMA. This is a slide that sort of depicts what makes us healthy, what makes us sick. And if you notice, only 25% of it relates to your access to healthcare. 90% of our healthcare dollars are spent on that 25%. So what about the other things, the prevention and the wellness? we can all agree that's somewhat unacceptable to us, that our tax-paying dollars that have been designed to keep us healthy are actually being spent on a minority of the determinants of health. So how do we save a chronically underfunded healthcare system and at the same time devote more resources to prevention and wellness? That's a pretty lofty challenge. I would argue that's a grand challenge. But as Jeff has alluded to, pundits like Peter Diamandis, they feel that those challenges are our greatest opportunities to leverage exponential technologies. And we're already witnessing their emergence in healthcare. I mean, cloud computing, smartphones, wearables, they're converging and starting to disrupt healthcare, certainly not in a profound way like they are in other industries. But Hod, and I don't think he's with us today, but he nicely demonstrated that when Stanford created AI to detect skin cancer, I mean, just think of the power of that. I think I want to spend like a minute on that because it's so profound what that did. And one of the tables actually came up with AI and personalized medicine as a game changer, and I would agree with that. So this is how a dermatologist currently looks at a skin mole. So if you have a mole in your body, that dermatologist trained for 10 years after medical school, all that information packed into his brain. So on the right is the bad lesions, the red stuff. On the left is the green lesions that are benign. And the stuff in the middle is the yellow. That's when we biopsy, do more things. So the bad, the good, and the ugly. That's how they are trained. It's all that packed into their brain. But what if you took that same mole and you exposed it to a neural network that was trained on 130,000 images of 1,000 different skin diseases? It starts to elegantly categorize these lesions in ways that we can't even predict because the network is behaving in ways with all of these multiple layers that the human brain just doesn't operate in. When you compared that AI to board-certified radiologists, look at the top left. The AI was better, was more sensitive and more specific than 21 board-certified dermatologists. It outperformed them all with nothing more than a camera, a cloud, and some AI. How scalable is that? And that's only after the first training. It's going to get better, and that's the scary thing. But it's still not available to consumers. Thankfully, it's the wellness and fitness industry that's changing that. It's not the healthcare industry. They're embracing these exponential technologies en masse and making them ubiquitous. I had an offline conversation with Jeffrey from Mountain Equipment Co-op, and he said something that seemed innocuous to me, but when I went home and I thought about it, people now, runners, are spending more money on data than they are on their shoes. Like, I covet my ASICs at home. And so that's just a profound thing to me, that the shoes are becoming an afterthought. It's all about the data now. So just as a poll, an informal poll, how many of you are wearing a smartwatch or a wearable that gives you access to health information? I see Nick Kindler in the back. I've had that conversation before. It's truly becoming ubiquitous. It's really quite fascinating to me. And what's even more fascinating to me is someone in Tanzania, and I've seen this. I was just there last week. Some of the middle class and upper middle class in Tanzania, they have the same technology that we do. They're wearing a Fitbit. They have the same app. They can now manage their health, quantify themselves, irrespective of borders and geography. And that's a profound development, I think, in healthcare. And doctors are afraid of this because these wearables, we don't even know what to do with this new stream of data. But doctors are starting to wake up. They're starting to realize that there are a place for these wearables as they become more advanced, as they transcend beyond health and wellness into medicine. The question is, how do we implement this? But they are evolving. They're evolving to a point where literally there'll be the unwearable wearable. You won't even know you're wearing it. It'll be like the zero interface concept. That's when managing our health will truly become a seamless and unobtrusive experience. It'll become like magic, like Suzanne said when she quoted Arthur C. Clarke. And what do I mean by that? Well, you're at home. You have these sensors baked into your home, into your clothes, silently detecting changes in your behavior and your body, powered by AI, giving you inferences and insights into your health long before they become real concerns. You don't even have to step into a clinic or a hospital anymore. Those institutions will become obsolete. And you, most importantly, will now have the ability to share that data with whoever you wish. It'll be your data now. Right now, it's not. Now imagine a wearable that can hack your brain. Literally understand your consciousness and quantify the functions of your brain in ways we never thought possible. Dr. Divya Chander, who's with us today, she's going to walk us through that. She's actually creating that very technology. And when I take off my Singularity University hat and I go back to the intensive care unit, which I'm doing at 6 p.m. today because I'm on call, I'll face a patient who's unconscious, and I may not know why. So technology like that, that's a game changer. So I'm really going to pay attention during that talk. We'll also hear from Dr. Tiffany Vora. This is a slide, and if you don't know what this is CRISPR. This is next level cutting edge gene technology. It's fundamentally changing how we view medicine because it gives us the ability to edit our DNA. Just imagine being able to cut out genetic diseases before they even manifest, being able to give ourselves the immunity to HIV and AIDS. Changing ourselves fundamentally at our core. This is the promise of digital biology, and Tiffany's going to get into that. Of course, this opens up a Pandora's box of ethical issues. For example, CRISPR, right now in Canada, it's illegal. It's a criminal offense to use CRISPR in a cell that can be transferred to another generation. How are we going to overcome that obstacle? This is one of the reasons why the Uberization of healthcare, this utopian vision we talk about, hasn't occurred yet. And there's another obstacle, and it's a major one, and we all experience it. These are silos. If you've ever been to Vancouver and Granville Island, somebody took the time to paint these big cement silos, and it's a perfect depiction of what I'm trying to talk about here. There's you in your home with your data and all of this stuff that you're doing at home, and you're in a silo. And next to you is your GP in their office, and they're in a silo. And then maybe your naturopath and your physiotherapist is in another silo. And then the acute care system, the hospital, is in another silo. They all have a footprint of you, maybe a digital one, of your personal health information, and they're all independent. They don't communicate, they have different agendas, they're not working together to improve your health outcome. How do we overcome that obstacle? That's probably one of the reasons why innovation in healthcare is not obeying the principles of Moore's Law. These obstacles are profound and don't impact other industries like they do healthcare. And here's the biggest obstacle of all, if that wasn't enough. And we heard about it with blockchain yesterday, and talking about regulation. She just wants the regulators to disappear. Unfortunately, in healthcare, they're a massive obstacle, and we can't make them disappear, or I go to jail. They literally are really, really vested in one thing, and that's keeping us all safe. The frustration for all of us, consumers and providers alike, is we see all these modern miracles coming through the pipeline, CRISPR, et cetera, and we don't have access to them. And it's because Health Canada doesn't even know how to legislate them yet. When you take an app on your phone, and right now it's just telling you how many steps you do, and it starts to give you diagnostic information, it fundamentally becomes a medical device. It becomes like bricks and mortar. How do you legislate that? They have no idea, and we're starting to create policy groups around this, but it's in its infancy. And on top of that, then you get into cyber resiliency and security. When it's containing another silo of personal health information, how do we protect that? So that's one of the main reasons why Health Canada has trepidation about these technologies. So what can we do now? Well, when I led a team of technologists, because I'm certainly not one, in creating a tricorder, if you may remember, I'm the same vintage, Dr. McCoy with his tricorder, I learned a valuable lesson after a lot of failure, a lot of sunk costs. We need unorthodox collaboration. We need to get all of the stakeholders at the table. Honorable Dadswell, she spoke to this yesterday. We need the people at the table. I'll give you an example. Some of my brightest engineers work in a corner. They don't even talk to the patients. They don't even talk to me, frankly. We give them a task, and off they go. They start innovating. But they really need to engage us more. We need to create channels of communication. And I feel that if you get all the stakeholders at the table, even those who stand to be disrupted, take Hod's discussion of the Stanford AI, the dermatologists, you could argue that they stand to be disrupted. But if you bring them to the table, and we're all singularly focused on one goal, and it's how do we implement this new technology into healthcare in a way that's sustainable, in a way that's scalable, in a way that'll change the outcome, singularly focused on that one issue, which is changing the outcome. I would argue that those same dermatologists that stand to be disrupted will embrace it in a way that augments their capabilities. Right now, however, it's all just another stream of data that's in a fragmented healthcare system that's unintegrated, and we're drowning in it. As David alluded to, we're drowning in it. But if we get all the stakeholders at the table, we can move the needle 10x and not just 10%. So this morning, we're going to learn about the technology drivers in health. We're going to hear about how your genetic code can be rewritten. We're going to hear about how you can quantify your brain. And those technologies, when they create new data streams, if we figure out how to connect the dots between the providers and you, we can really move the needle in healthcare. In fact, we will learn how digital biology and innovation in healthcare is impacting other industries in explosive ways. Tiffany's going to get into that. So without further ado, let's get started.